Hey guys, Windsor here, and welcome to the Groove Guru podcast. And in this episode, I want to talk about a subject that remains very dear to me and also pretty relevant, as at the time of recording this, May 2024, in the US, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and in the UK, it's soon going to be Mental Health Awareness Week. And as I see it, it's a very relevant topic, and the nature of mental well-being is something that we all seek, as I see it, whether we realize it or not. Now, at risk of sounding a bit mystical here, and I'm cool with that, as I've come to realize it, mental well-being is a subject that's it's actually beyond a subject and something that's it's not even a thing. Yet, when you realize the nature of it, it's very palpable, pretty miraculous actually, and always beautiful to experience, and something that everyone can ongoingly benefit from. Though this one's called Finding Mental Well-Being as a Musician, what I'll be pointing to relates not just to musicians, but all people, because as I see it, the nature of well-being for all people is the same. Now, before getting into this one, I'm aware that most of you listening will likely know me as Windsor the drummer. And sure, drumming is one of my passions and professions, and something I continue to love and do. It's also something I got into that was, quite frankly, an escape for me. As in my teens and 20s, I was pretty insecure and most of the time really anxious and uptight. And when I found drumming, I became obsessed with it and I practiced endlessly because when I did that, quite frankly, life didn't suck so much. And truth be told, I got pretty good at it after going to university in Scotland. To study law, psychology, and business, which intellectually was pretty stimulating. It was something I didn't have any passion for compared to music and drumming. And so I moved to Guildford in Surrey and studied at the Academy of Contemporary Music, and I graduated there with the award of the most outstanding drum student of the year, and that was fine. And when I was there, I was asked to teach my class and year on a few occasions, which felt a bit weird teaching some of my peers, but okay, I went with it. Then after graduating and alongside continuing to teach at the Academy, music and drumming for many years, I landed some pretty cool gigs musically with a variety of bands and artists, from Hugh Cornwell of the original Stranglers, Fish of Marillion, to working with legendary punk poet Dr. John Cooper Clarke, trailblazing rock band Wishbone Ash, and others. And on the surface and on paper, that all looked pretty cool to me. But underneath that, a lot of the time I was still really insecure and pretty anxious. And along the way, I tried so many things in search of well-being, such as there was CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, psychotherapy, guided meditation, Buddhist meditation, mantras, affirmations, visualizations, journaling, dream analysis, Reiki, training as a psychic medium. Okay, hands up, I did that for a bit. It was fun. But shamanic journeying, ritual magic, exploring Jungian personality archetypes and their applications, plant medicine, antidepressants, nootropics, smart drugs, hot and cold therapy, fasting. I once fasted for up to 15 days with no solid food. Hey, it was a fun experiment. Various diets from raw vegan to strict carnivore. But it wasn't until I heard to the heart of something that Scottish mystic Sydney Banks said that the nature of well-being really landed for me and did so in a very real way that continues to make life beautiful. in ways beyond what I could imagine. In one of his talks, Sid said that every person is sitting in the middle of mental health. They just don't see it. Now, beyond that just being another interesting quote from a self-help teacher that I could add to my collection, as I listened, I heard something deeper that beyond Sid's words continues to resonate to the heart of me in a way that all of the well-being that I've ever looked for readily presents itself. Now, as you listen to this episode, I want to emphasize that it's not so much about my words and the things I'm saying here, but what I'm pointing to beyond them. So, as you listen, I invite you to set your thoughts aside and listen for something deeper. The first point I want to make is that every one of you listening to this has perfect mental well-being already. And the only thing that covers and hides that up is layers of thought and feelings. Your mental well-being can be covered up with various thoughts, but it can never, ever be damaged. No matter what you feel, your actual mental well-being is unbreakable. It's like a palm tree can bend to incredible extents when it's stormy. You've probably all seen on the TV palm trees in the wind bending, but when the wind stops, they always bounce back to their original form. It's so resilient in its nature. And when the storms of your thinking pass, your mind settles and you become calm and clear again. And in the heart of your calmness is your well-being. And it's so simple and actually pretty ordinary, but so underappreciated, yet so accessible. And it's a feeling. In traditional psychology, most of the emphasis on well-being is not actually on mental health, but the absence of it, like mental sickness, okay? The distortions of thought. And I know there are a lot of well-meaning people in that profession. Yet, in the traditional psychological paradigm, when it comes to finding well-being, the focus is on making a thing out of our thinking and then trying to fix that with more thinking. So it's a very additive process, and there's no end to the extent that that can be done. And it's like with the ego, it's never satisfied. It just wants to experience more of itself, which is personal thinking. But that's not the answer to finding actual well-being. Mental well-being is not in your thought content. It's beyond that. And as I've come to realize that mental well-being in its nature is more subtractive, you could say, and comes when you really see that your thoughts actually dovetail into nothing, which is the inside, which is an insight, which actually is mental well-being, which you already have. And the source of it, your actual essence and true nature, it's the you that's beyond that noise in your head. It's pure positive feeling. It's pure feeling. It's beyond positive and negative. It just is. As you feel that love and see beyond your thoughts, that's when you know that absence of well-being is just that. It's absence. It doesn't exist. It's when you see from within you and have an insight you see that your mental well being is right here, right now. I know there may be people listening to this that have been given a diagnosis and some label, but I promise you, inside you right now, there's a space before anything you think. The deep now that is where you have access to your deepest level of mental well being. And it's in the quiet of your mind that you'll find it. And again, your well being is not about my words or the words of any other teacher. It's in the silence of your own mind. And as you listen to this, and I'd recommend you listen a few times, see if you can get silent with the silence, the space between these words, the space before the thoughts. Now, where do we often look for well being? It's the outside. And it doesn't come from out there in the world anywhere. The gigs that you have or don't, how skilled you are at your instrument, how much money you make, or the people you know, how famous you are. We've all heard about the people that are famous that are not in the best shape mentally. Because well-being's not out there. And well-being, it doesn't come from your thinking, your thought content. You can't find mental well-being in personal thinking. It's impossible, because that's not where it is. And you can think in ways that create excitement, but that's not well-being or happiness. It's realizing that well-being you're looking for, to find it, you have to go beyond the psychological to something much deeper. It's beyond the illusion of personal thinking. That's where you find what you seek. And as we let go of the noise in our head, it gets quieter. And in the quiet of your mind, that's where beautiful feelings unfold. Like how flowers open up when they're nourished by the sun. And as you wake up to that quiet space inside you, that's when you deeply feel that true nature of you, which is, you could say, love, which is just a word, but there's an essence of you that's always readily accessible when you feel into it. And that's what's at the heart of all spiritual teachings, and is actually the core of mental well-being. It's who you really are underneath all of that noise in your head. So, mental well-being, where does it come from? It's within you. It's beyond any labels. It's not a good idea. It's not a therapeutic intervention. It's essentially living in a quiet mind. That it's not an idea. It's not something to be memorized. It's something to be realized. And beyond your thinking, as you let go of that, you realize the space of well-being that you already have. That is the space inside you before you generate any thought content. The feeling of calm that, again, it's a state of no thought, which is a state of ease, which is so practical. Because when you have a lot less on your mind and you're more relaxed and you open to that well-being, it's the source of all creativity. It's the space in which all the answers appear for you. It's where you're at your most resourceful, where you listen better. If you're at a musician listening to this, when you have less in your mind, you hear the band better. You respond intuitively in the moment. It just feels better to do anything it is that you want to do. So, focusing on that feeling. When you get that slightest suspicion that you're not there, which you can tell by your feeling, that's a pointer to recognizing, okay, my head's not clear right now. Let's come back to ground zero and let's start with a blank canvas. And that space inside you is that which you've always sought. And it's so simple. So, as an invitation this week, if your mind appears a bit busy and you've got a lot on your mind, that's just what thought's doing in the moment right now. And I invite you to recognize that, oh, okay, if the feeling is tension, stress, upset, anything that's not ease, take a back seat, let it go. And the more you come out of your personal thinking to that quiet of your own mind, which is who you really are, beneath all the noise, that's where your well-being is. And that's the direction to look in. There's only ever one thought away. That is where you are at your best, at your clearest, at your healthiest. And from there, life's just so much more fun. So, if bad feelings come up, it happens. Let go of them and come back to your clarity and that space of well being. And then you're just a better version of you, whatever it is that you do. So, have fun. Check in with your well being. Enjoy the silence. And I'll talk with you soon.